Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today for our online information session. This should be about a 15 to 25-minute webinar, depending on, I guess, how quickly I speak and also how many questions you have at the end of our session. So I'm going to begin shortly. I just sort of want to preface this webinar to let you know the format. It's a PowerPoint, and I'll be speaking through it. For those of you who are calling in on the phone, clearly you won't be able to share in the PowerPoint with us. So at the end of the session today, I will unmute you, and you can either speak if you have any questions, or you can, for those on the computer, you can either speak or you can type directly into your message box through the Zoom platform. So without further ado, let's get started. So my name is Kristen Casey. I work here in admissions at the Jesuit School of Theology in Berkeley. I am an alumna of the school. I graduated in 2011 with a Master of Arts in Theology. And after I graduated, I taught high school for 2 years. I taught religious studies at an all-girls Catholic high school just south of San Francisco in a city called Belmont. Prior to my enrollment in JST, I was a campus minister for just over a year at a large state school, and I spent 2 years as an AmeriCorps Vista volunteer in upstate New York as well. And it's through all those different experiences, particularly being a volunteer and through being a campus minister, and also through my undergraduate experience where I studied theology and American Catholic studies, that I discerned my own interest in attending JST and enrolling in the programs here. And I'm happy to talk with you at the end of the session in the future. Please make sure you write down my contact info. It's all over the website, and it'll be again at the end of this PowerPoint. Feel free to contact me with questions. So today we'll talk real quickly about why a student might enroll in a graduate school in theology and ministry. I'll briefly go over our most popular programs here at JST, talk a little bit about the Jesuit School of Theology, or JST as we refer to ourselves, the JST experience. I'll go over financing your education, and then we'll have room for Q&A at the end. So let's get started with why graduate school in theology and ministry. What attracts students to graduate school? Why might someone study theology? Why might someone study ministry? And also we'll take a quick look at what our alumni are doing. So there's a variety of reasons someone might enroll in graduate school in theology and ministry. For some people, it is a professional path. They have a vocation or a calling to serve in a ministerial capacity within the Catholic Church. Indeed, they might already be serving in a ministerial capacity within the church, and they'd like to deepen that experience. And so some students come in with a very specific plan. They're going to be a hospital chaplain, or they're going to teach religious studies or be a campus minister. They're going to go on for doctoral studies in theology. But beyond that, some students come for personal development, to further their critical thinking, to really engage deep theological questions in a contemporary setting that's engaging, faith and belief and culture. And some might be vocational, and that's my own path, is that last bullet point on this slide. I took theology in undergrad and fell in love with it. Left undergrad and did some years of volunteering, worked as a campus minister, and I did not have a specific plan in mind when I enrolled at JST. I just knew that I had to study theology further. I was open to considering, doctoral study, teaching, etc. And in a very exciting way, I actually ended up, after teaching for a couple of years, working here in admissions, which is, vocation is funny like that. I'm right where I want to be. So what are our alumni doing? They are serving as teachers, both at the high school and collegiate level. They're campus ministers, again, at the high school or collegiate level. They're doctoral students. Many go on to work in nonprofit administration. That's going to look different for each alum. Often they're faith-based nonprofits, perhaps volunteer organizations, retreat centers, etc. Some work in community organizing or grassroots organizing. They serve in parishes as pastoral associates. We have many religious alumni as well who would be serving as, parish priests or priests in other capacities, serving as their priestly function in other capacities. Many go on to higher education, both in teaching and in administrators. Many also work in retreat work and or in individual spiritual direction work. And many also serve as chaplains in hospitals, in the prison system, and also in the military. So in today's program, we're going to talk, or I'm going to talk, about three of our main programs, the Master of Divinity, the Master of Arts, and the Master of Theological Studies. I do want to mention that we have programs in addition to these three, and I'd be happy to speak with you further one-on-one about those. And those are our ecclesiastical degrees. They're a bachelor, a licentiate, and a doctorate of sacred theology. Those are degrees that are accredited by Rome, by the Vatican, and they're often utilized by individuals who'd like to teach in seminaries, either in the United States or in an international context. We also have a sabbatical program here called the New Directions Sabbatical. And again, I won't go into detail about that, but it's important to imagine that you would have these students in these ecclesiastical degree programs and also in the sabbatical program in the classroom, which is really fantastic. Both those programs tend to be very international in their enrollment. And for many of them, especially the doctorate and the sabbatical program, students are coming in with years of experience in academia, in ministry, and they're contributing that knowledge in the classroom discussions that are occurring. But that said, I'm going to move on now and focus on our three master's degrees, which generally tend to be the degrees that sort of draw the most interest for the discerning student. So our Master of Divinity is a 3-year degree. This is a professional ministerial degree designed to prepare the individual for ministry within the Catholic Church and or the Christian Church. In this course of work, students take a broad they have broad exposure to a multitude of theological disciplines, including the study of the Bible, society, and Christian ethics, systematic and philosophical theology, history. They take some pastoral courses, interreligious dialogue. They also have a seminar that meets each year. They meet in a cohort model, so each group starts in the fall together and journeys through 3 years of formation together, and they're meeting throughout those 3 years in a seminar format. And then they also engage in field education throughout their 3 years, but particularly in their second year, they engage in field ed where they're serving 10 hours a week doing direct ministry at a variety of sites throughout the Bay Area. So that includes serving at hospitals, in prisons, in high school, both campus ministry and in the classroom setting, serving at college campus ministry settings, serving in parishes, basically anywhere you can picture ministry, we have had students or have students serving there in field ed. Many of those relationships are established, and so students spend their first year figuring out which site they're going to serve at. And then there's also the possibility for a student who has, a very specific calling to work with our Director of Ministerial Field Education to develop their own service site or project, if we don't already have one that sort of matches your vocational calling. So it's a very flexible program designed to really hone in on the skills and the calling of the individual student and make sure that those skills are developed. Our program here is focused on collaboration between laity and religious. It's a small program. It's usually about 15 to 25 students, and usually about half of those students, half or just under, are lay, and about half are Jesuits in formation for the priesthood. And then smattered in there are also occasionally some men from other religious orders in formation for the priesthood, along with religious sisters at varying places in their commitment to the sisterhood and their vows. So that's our Master of Divinity. I often, when I can only speak about it in 2 seconds, I say it's our ministerial degree for the person attracted to ministry within the church. Our Master of Arts in Theology, which we refer to as the MA, is a 2-year degree. If the MDiv is ministerial, the MA is academic. That said, all of our programs here are very academic in nature. It's one of the hallmarks of a Jesuit education is, commitment to excellence in education, and you'll see that in our classroom and with our faculty and with our students. So the MA is a student picks an area of concentration, and I'll list those for you in just a few slides. They take a variety of courses in that area of concentration. They also take some sort of core courses across Bible, ethics, social theory, history, and systematic theology. At the end of their 2 years, they write an 80-page research thesis, and that's sort of modeled after the dissertation process. It involves original research and writing, and students work very closely with their thesis advisor to complete that project, and then they submit it to a reading committee, and that reading committee they have a proper defense with that committee. So very great preparation for doctoral study and an amazing opportunity to really dive deep into a particular theological discipline and really begin to become an expert in a certain field. Also with great exposure to other things you might be interested in. You have a variety of electives that you can take, courses that aren't necessarily part of your concentration, but you might have an interest in. Also, there's a modern language requirement for the MA program. Students have to prove proficiency in translating. Languages include Chinese, French, German, modern Hebrew, Italian, Japanese, Latin, and Spanish. There's a variety of ways to prove efficiency in that, but it's just a good thing to keep that in mind. And the point of that is to prove that you could be doing academic research in one of those languages. Again, great preparation for doctoral study. So the last degree I'm going to talk about today is our Master of Theological Studies, or the MTS. This is also a 2-year degree similar to the MA. However, the MTS is also flexible and a student can enroll in it part-time. As a part-time student program, it's a 4-year program, or a student can take up to 4 years. So you could also take 3 years, or 3 years in 1 semester, whatever works for you and your schedule. The way that I describe this program in a nutshell is I say that it's a hybrid of the MDiv and the MA. So it's both ministerial and academic in nature. And by that I mean that it can be tailored a little bit to the student's interests. And if they want to go the more ministerial route, they can do that. And if they want to go the more academic study of theology route, they can do that. So in this program, students again pick an area of concentration, which I'll show you in just a moment, and they take courses in that area of concentration, along with some core courses and some electives. The MTS is great preparation for work in catechetics and parish ministry, for teaching. And it offers really great theological enrichment for those already enrolled in ministry, or sorry, I should say experiencing ministry. Look at me throwing that term enrolled in there. Clearly I work with students all day. And so the MTS is different from the MA in many ways. One of the main ways is the final project or paper. So there's a 40-page paper at the end of the MTS as opposed to an 80-page research thesis at the end of the MA. Still a very robust research paper that's written with the MTS, just slightly shorter. Students can also opt to do a project, and this is where the student interested in like pastoral application or ministerial application would really shine. So the project can be sort of an applied theology. A student can develop a curriculum for a certain, for example, you could develop like a biblical studies curriculum for teaching women in prison, or you could develop a retreat based on a certain spirituality or a certain book of the Bible or whatever it is that you're inspired by. And so students work very closely with a faculty member to work on that research paper or the project. And it's a place where they integrate their previous coursework and really begin to apply it to either academic study and or project. Of course, that project is going to be very academic in nature as well, but you actually leave with sort of like a product with the project option. And so those areas of concentration that I've been promising you. So students can opt to select any of these areas of concentration. It's a requirement that they know their area of concentration at the time that they apply. I'd be happy to speak with you offline if you have questions about figuring out which concentration is the best fit for you. One important note is that these biblical languages is only available for the MA student. And for those of you calling in on the phone, I'll just read these real quickly. The areas of concentration include art and religion, biblical languages, biblical studies, Christian spirituality, cultural and historical studies of religion, ethics and social theory, liturgical studies, and systematic and philosophical theology. So that's pretty much all the information I'm going to share with you about our programs at this point. I'm going to switch now and talk a little bit about the JST experience, what makes being a student at JST, being a member of the community here, a unique experience, and what's it like to be a student here. This is a picture here on the screen of a blessing at Mass I'm going to guess this involves graduation just from the context of the photo, but don't quote me on that. But this is our chapel here. It's a very beautiful chapel, and we have liturgy here often. So JST is a community of scholars and leaders. We're dedicated to academic excellence. I mentioned that earlier. It's part of the Jesuit charism and tradition. We also are committed here to a practice called the culturally contextualized study of theology. And this is a phrase that our faculty came up with years ago. And it's really embodied by many different components within our school, and especially in the classroom. And what it means is that when we're studying in the classroom, when our faculty are creating their syllabus and teaching their classes, and when classroom discussion is happening, the context and the culture of what is being studied is always a main emphasis, but also the context and the culture of today, of the contemporary society, and of the people and the students in the classroom is also very important. And so it's this conversation and this dialogue between, ancient tradition that we're inheriting and contemporary society and culture, and what is that dialogue, and how do we make theology completely true to that inherited tradition, and also speaking to the many different cultures of today. And it also invites us to ask the question, how is theology growing out of lived experience today? Because theology is very much for us an active term, something that we move with and towards, we act, we live it out, while also studying it. And those are a both and not an either or here at JST. We also have opportunities for spiritual practice and reflection, including daily liturgy. We offer liturgy twice a day, Tuesday through Friday. Thursday nights, often every other Thursday night, it's a lay-led liturgy, so students looking for leadership opportunities as lay students have the opportunity to do that. Additionally, students in religious communities have the opportunity to provide leadership in liturgy throughout the week as well. Tuesday nights, so tonight actually, while I sit up here in my office speaking with all of you, we're celebrating Mass down in our chapel, and then followed by Mass is a light soup and salad supper, and then often almost every week except maybe like the first Tuesday of the semester, we have a presentation or conversation or activity after that. So sometimes it's a formal academic lecture, sometimes it's students presenting about a trip that they've taken or an experience that they've had. Sometimes it's a meet and greet with our spiritual directors, which leads me to my next point, which is all of our students at JST are invited to participate in spiritual direction. They usually participate about once a month, meeting with a spiritual director who's journeying with them throughout their own faith journey as they engage in their studies here. And that's completely paid for by the school, and we also work with the student to organize or to arrange that connecting with that spiritual director. We're very much a community here, so the individual is journeying in his or her own vocational discernment within a very warm and hospitable community. And another really huge component of JST is service of the faith that does justice or social justice. Often students ask me, what is one thing that every student here shares in common? And I say, not much. We're very diverse in terms of age, in terms of where our students are from, in terms of their ministerial call. But one thing that is shared among our students is this commitment to social justice and our faculty and our community overall. So it's a very big part of what we do here. We're also a part of the Graduate Theological Union. So this is a consortium of 8 different schools and 12 different centers of study, all committed to various Christian traditions. The centers of study are mostly non-Christian in nature. So there's a center of Islamic study, of Orthodox study, of Jewish study, of Hindu study, etc. And so this is a group of schools and centers all located in proximity to one another here in the Bay Area. 90% of the schools and centers are within walking distance of where JST is located, where I am in my office right now. And so students can cross-register throughout the Graduate Theological Union with ease. It's all the same registration system. And so that means as a student, you're a student of JST, you have our somewhat small, we're about 170 students, community to be a part of, but you also have the broader GTU, and that's about 1,300 to 1,500 students at any given time enrolled in the GTU. So you have exposure to a much broader faculty, a much broader student base, It also makes the conversations in the classroom pretty extraordinary because you have people coming from these different faith traditions. And I should mention that the different centers, and particularly those 8 graduate theological schools, are forming leaders in different faith traditions. So these are people committed to their faith tradition, whether it be American Baptist, Episcopalian, Presbyterian, etc. These are people who want to be leaders in their faith, but who are also recognizing the importance of this interreligious and ecumenical dialogue that the GTU offers. We're located next to the University of California at Berkeley, and we have a very friendly relationship with them. Our students can take up to 1 class per semester at Cal for credit. We also have access to their extensive library system, which is great for people interested in interdisciplinary work. Our own library has an extensive theological collection, so you kind of have the best of both worlds. Like this amazing theological library, and just a couple blocks away is a very extensive academic library of many, many different disciplines. And we're also located in the Great Bay Area. It's a great place to live, to work, to find ministry opportunities, to enjoy nature, to network with others. It's just a fantastic place to live. One other thing I'll mention about the JST experience, I'm realizing I'm getting a little long-winded in my promise to wrap up within 25 minutes. We offer interreligious immersions every other year to Indonesia, Nepal, and India. So in Indonesia, it's Christian-Muslim dialogue. In Nepal, it's Christian-Buddhist dialogue. And in India, it's focused on Christian-Hindu dialogue. And so those are rotating opportunities for students where they take coursework throughout the fall semester, immersing themselves in theories of interreligious dialogue and learning specifically about, the different religions incorporated into their particular course. And then they travel to those places for about 3 weeks in January and engage in dialogue with students of those other religious traditions and with, local people practicing their faith in a variety of different ways. We also offer contextual coursework. This is the 2nd year we're offering a course called it's called Children of Sarah, Hagar, and Mary, and it focuses on the experiences of women and stories of women in Islam, Christianity, and Judaism. And so students meet for a full semester and then travel to Jerusalem where they meet with women from those different religious traditions in January. And then we also offered this past year a trip to Spain, which focused on the life of St. Ignatius. And then students participated in walking part of the Camino, which is a very famous walkway for those of you who are familiar with St. Ignatius, the founder of the Jesuits and, the founder of the order that founded our school. St. Ignatius has a very important story through a walkway in Spain called the Camino, and so our students journeyed on that walkway together this past summer. So how do you pay for grad school? Here at JST, we are very happy to be able to offer institutional scholarships. We offer up to 8 full tuition presidential scholarships each year to incoming Master of Divinity students. And then for all of our programs, scholarships are available that cover up to 90% of tuition for all the degree programs. We also offer housing stipends. And for this application process, you complete a short little application, you submit it directly to our office, and awards are based on a combination of both the financial need of the student and the academic and or ministerial promise of the student as a student at JST. We're also part of the federal loan program, so students who are eligible can apply for federal loans to assist in paying for their tuition and for also their living costs. For that process, you apply directly to the Graduate Theological Union Financial Aid Office. And we also have on campus some graduate student assistantship or GSA positions. So these are hourly paid positions offered to students. They work alongside staff in different departments. They work with faculty, and they work throughout the semester. And what a really great asset to this is that we're all tend to be very flexible. We know that students have a very different sort of ebb and flow to their academic year, whether that mean that they're heading out for break or they're focusing on finals, and we know that their schedule might change alongside with that, and so these positions reflect an accommodation to those schedules. And I think that's all. Yeah, so that's all the information for finances. So just to recap, students usually pay through scholarship, through federal loan, and through these GSA positions. They might also tap into outside resources like AmeriCorps awards or external scholarship awards. They might end savings. So it's usually for grad school students sort of pull together different sources of financing to pay for it. And here at JST, we are very committed to making sure that our students do not graduate from our degree programs with debt debt that is not manageable. So we do our best to award as generous scholarships as we can. The deadline for applying to JST programs, and this is a priority deadline, so you can apply at any point up to 2 weeks before the semester, but to ensure that your application is situated in such a way that you can receive the best possible scholarship, and to ensure that there's room for you in the program, we encourage you to get your application submitted in full by February 1st to start in the fall semester, and by September 30th to start in the spring semester. We're still accepting spring semester applications if you're interested in applying. And if you are interested in applying for spring, I recommend that you maybe reach out to me shortly after this this webinar ends so that we can communicate about getting your application started as soon as possible. So to apply, there's an application form. There's a $50 application fee. We ask for 2 letters of recommendation from people who've worked with you in an academic setting, 3 if you're applying to the MA program. There's also a statement of purpose where you explain your interest in graduate school, what has led you to grad school, why have you chosen JST in the particular program that you're applying to, and what do you hope to do after graduation, to the extent that you know that. We also ask for a resume, official transcripts from all of your undergraduate studies and beyond, and also GRE scores. Those must be submitted directly to JST, and if any of you happen to already have a master's degree in a different subject area that was received recently in the past, 6 or so years, we're happy to waive those GRE scores for you. So that's a quick summary of our programs. I think I just went over by like 2 or 3 minutes of my goal. So what I'm going to do now, and sort of a warning for those of you who might be talking or making noise, I'm going to unmute you. You can then opt to mute yourself. But if you have any questions, please feel free to ask me or type them into the chat box. And give me just a second while I unmute you. So does anyone have any questions that you'd like to share with me through the webinar platform? You're also welcome to contact me individually. All right, so I received one question here. It sounds like no one's going to ask a question, so I'm just going to remute you if that's okay. Just that way it's easier for you. You don't have to worry about being quiet. Make sure I didn't mute myself. I did not. But I did have one question that typed in about housing, which I didn't go over. So we do offer housing for our students. It is, we have 2 different lay intentional communities. So those are lay students living together, usually about 6 to 8 in 2 different communities. One right here in Berkeley next to the school, one in Oakland, California, which is about a 15-minute bus ride from here, maybe 10 to 20 minutes, depending on traffic. And so those are community, they all live together, and there's some intentionality around their living. We also offer traditional sort of apartment style living in studios, 1-bedroom apartments, and 2-bedroom apartments. And there's different rates for all of those different living situations. In a 2-bedroom apartment, you may have a roommate who's another JST or GTU student. You can also opt to sort of select who you would live with, but it is required that that person's enrolled at JST or GTU, or that you are married to that person. Studios are very popular. They tend to go to students who've been here for a while. But other than that, we are happy to advertise that our housing costs are below market rate, and they include all of your utilities, including internet. So it's just one flat fee that you pay per month. And just to reference back to that financial aid slide, we also do offer housing stipends via scholarship for those students based on both financial need and academic merit. Any other questions? It doesn't look like it. So I'm going to head to our last slide and say thank you so much for joining for joining me tonight. I look forward to hearing from you soon. Please don't hesitate to contact me. My contact information, admissions@jstb.edu. You can also email me at kkc@jstb.edu. All that's available on our website, or give us a call. I thank you for your time. I hope you have a great end of your Tuesday evening, and I look forward to hearing from you soon. Thanks very much, and have a good night.